So there are a lot of other functionalities also. We are not going to go into each and every one in detail for string related operations, but let's just take an example to understand a couple of those. Okay, fine. So if I just say stdio.h, okay, and I'll also take hash include string.h. Okay, fine. Okay, now what I want to do is, like, basically let's just say write a program, okay, to accept a string from user and check if it is palindrome or not. Okay, acha. Now what's a palindrome? Okay, now you must understand what that thing is. Okay, so now any string that can be read in kind of ascending order or descending order, that will be considered as a palindrome. For example, say I'll say this word. Okay, fine. So if I write it ulta, basically, okay, so it will be T-I-H-O-R. Fine. But then again, when I'm checking this thing, when I compare these two kind of characters, okay, these are not same, so this string won't be palindrome. Okay, now let's take an example of another string. Suppose, say I take this string, fine, and if I write it kind of in the opposite direction also, if I write it from right to left also, okay, fine, so I am getting the same thing. So if I even go character by character reading this string over here, okay, I'll be getting the same kind of characters. Fine, so this string will be there, that is a palindrome. Another example I would give, suppose, say this string which is there, fine, this also string is a palindrome. Fine, so we have to find out, basically we have to accept a string from the user, and we have to accept a kind of word from the user, and we have to check if that word is palindrome or not. Okay, so here we are going to do a couple of things now. Firstly, we'll have to kind of accept the string from the user. We have to kind of copy that string into another empty string. Then we have to reverse one of them. Okay, and then we have to do the compare also. There are a couple of operations that are involved, right? Okay, so we'll kind of try to create, or we'll try to learn the kind of additional functionalities in whatever are there in string with the help of this example itself. Okay, fine. So this is kind of the requirement which I have. Okay, now moving on to the program. Basically, if I just say create the structure, okay, fine. So what do we need? We need two strings, basically. One will be accepting from the user, and another one for our kind of processing purpose. Okay, so I'll just say string one, that has maybe suppose say 20 characters. This I'll be accepting from the user, and string two which is there. Okay, fine, this is kind of the string that we will be using for processing, or for kind of for saving the value, okay, at the backend. Okay, now very first thing, we have to accept the value from the user. So as we already had this code, I'll simply say copy this to 4 lines of code. I'll paste it here. I'll say enter the string, okay, and I'll name it, I'll save it in, suppose, say str1. Okay, and I'll basically display that thing. Okay, this is what you have entered, basically. Okay, once you got these values, okay, so once you get whatever the value user has entered, what I'll do is I'll try to copy that same value into this string 2. Acha, then again, you also might remember we had done this string, we had seen this thing, string copy. Okay, copies string 2 into string 1. So suppose, say, whatever is there in this part, so str1, whatever the user has given, I'll copy it in str2, right? Just the variable names will change over here, the function will remain the same. So whatever is information is there in this first string, that will be copied in the second string. We'll try to do that, right? So after that, displaying the name, what I did is strcpy string copy, and I'll say put that value what that you have copied in string 1. Sorry, whatever the value is there in string 1, put that in string 2. So this is your destination, this is your source. From here you want to copy the value to here. Okay, and what I'll do is I'll simply instead of name, I'll simply say string str1 is equal to this thing, and after copying, what I'll simply say is I'll copy this line of code and I'll paste it here, and I'll say print the string 2 also. Let's check what value is in the string, in string 2. Okay, fine, so I'll simply say compile this code, string operations example. Fine. Okay, so I'm compiling it, I'm getting a 0 warning, and I'm trying to run it. Okay, so whatever the user will enter a string, suppose I give my name. Fine. So okay, I forgot to give a slash n, so that's why it is coming over here. So let's fix that as well. My bad. Yeah. Okay, so let's just for kind of ease of use, I'll just give a slash n to both all the printf lines. Okay, saving it, compiling it, running it. Okay, let's take another word, suppose say. Fine, I give this word, so you can see both the strings are basically copied, right? Okay, now there is another function. Basically, if I want to reverse a string, okay, that function name is strrev. That is not given over here, not in these examples, I suppose. But then again, there are a lot of functionalities that won't be given. These are just a basic, some few functionalities that they have provided over here, or some few functions that they have given over here. Okay, so there is a function called as strrev. Okay, now what this function does is basically it takes only one parameter. Okay, you can give either str2 or str1, whatever you want to, and it will basically reverse that array, or reverse that kind of string, and save it in that same string itself. Okay, so now once I do this thing, and now if you notice, now let's see, I'll copy this same str2 and paste it again here after the string reverse, after I did strrev. Now just check what the result will be there. Okay, fine. So I'll just say save it, I'll just say run it. Okay, I'll give this name and I'll press enter. Okay, so if you notice that string 2 which is there, that copied the value from string 1, that was displayed first. After the string reverse function I run, it displayed this value, right? It basically reversed that character, right? Every character was reversed in the positions, right? So first got to last, last one came on to the first, second got to the second last, and so on and so forth. Okay, fine. So now what we need to do is, after this one, now what was the palindrome function what we had? If I reverse, right, so if I kind of reverse that string, and if I try to compare that both the strings, the string 2 and string 1, if both the strings are equal, still equal after even reversing, that time we can say the string is palindrome, or kind of the word or the array which is there, that is palindrome, or it is not a palindrome, right? So after kind of reversing also, what I have to do is, now I have to do comparing, right? So for that thing I'll create another, suppose say integer, int suppose say cmp, and then again, not necessary you should name it cmp all the time, you can name it whatever you want, and I'll say cmp is equal to strcmp, and I'll say str1 comma str2, and then again the order is also not important, because I can give str2 and str1 also. Ultimately what I want is, I want both the strings to be equal, right? Like the previous example that we did, right? So if cmp is equal to 0, means both the strings are equal even after the second string being reversed, that time I'll simply print a message, string is palindrome. Okay, fine. Else I'll print another message, not palindrome. I'll just print a not. So fine. So let's just say compile this code. I'm getting 0 warnings. Let's just run it. Okay, now in our scenario, suppose say I give the name as Rohit. Fine. In this scenario it is not palindrome, it is giving me that message. So now if I suppose say give a string that is palindrome, I gave you a couple of examples. I gave a name as Nitin, right? This was a word that I gave, right? So once I enter this thing, it is telling me the string is palindrome. Why? Because even after inverting the string, I am getting the same kind of scenarios. I am comparing this with this now, N-I-T-I-N, it's in the same line, right? So this string which is there, that is palindrome, right? So this is an basic example, and here actually what we did is, we did a couple of things. We did string copy function also, and we did string reverse function also. We used these two functionalities. Other than that, we were actually string compare we had done earlier also. I know. Fine, so we did a couple of two functionalities more in this program itself. right? So this is kind of the basic functionality, or this is the basic working of your string header file, or kind of these functionalities that are already present in the system. So if you wanted to do it by yourself, you would have to write a kind of complex logic to kind of compare between these things, then check if they are equal or not, and so on and so forth. A lot of things you would have to do in that scenario, right? So we are avoiding everything, and what we are doing is we are directly using the string.h header file. Acha, even if I go into the string.h header file, okay, fine, there are a lot of functions actually. Okay, we are strct, strcpy, strcat, strlen, right? Fine. So there are a lot of functions already available, or there are like internally there are stricmp something is there, str dump dup is there, duplicate, I think so it is for duplication something. Okay, so there are a lot of functionalities. We are not going to go through each and every one of them. Just understand that there are there. If you need it, they are there. Okay, and then again you will have to do some research for that thing. Just you have to maybe Google search some of these functionalities if you want to kind of use them maybe in future. Okay, fine. So this is about your string operations. Okay, so next up what we'll do is we'll start with functionalities. Now if you have noticed, you have used a couple of functions already. Printf also that you're using, it's a function. String compare you're using, it's a function. Now we are using already inbuilt functions. Now what we'll do is we'll try to create our own functions, and we will see how those work. Okay, so in the next